All right, guys. So we are doing Genesis 16 and some of 17. We might get through all of 17. I'm not sure, but we are definitely want to dive into 16 because when I tell you, um, we got a lot to talk about. I just want to say that because for y'all who don't know, I've been writing a book called Stages of Surrender, and I literally, not I, by the spirit of Yahuwah, he literally showed me Genesis 16 as an example of one of the stages of surrender, and like what happens when we are not fully surrendered or really trust him yet, and how it can affect ourselves and those around us, not like unintentionally, but the consequences are the consequences of sometimes how we react when we don't fully trust Yah or believe his word. And then we go out and try to make we make our own plans, and they hurt ourselves and everybody around us. So I'm gonna read a little bit of my excerpts from that tonight. Not the whole thing, because I'm still working on it. It's not done yet, but we're gonna talk about hurt. We're gonna talk about healing. We're gonna talk about like trauma from leadership, and how you may have been a Sarah, a Hagar, or a Abram at any point of your life, and how we've probably all been one or the other in our lives, or maybe later on in life. But to be mindful of how we act in every situation. So now Sarah, Abram's wife, had bore him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, Yahuwah has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. So we're going to stop there. Now, does anybody have anything they want to say first off that they noticed in just these first couple of verses? Oh, okay. Well, the first thing that I point out, I have it in notes here, that obviously Sarah is so distraught that she can't have any children, that she jumps to a conclusion about Yah. She literally says, Yah has kept me from having children. And then she comes up with a plan to like, hey, sleep with my wife. And so we have this jumping to conclusions that we do when things aren't happening in the time that we think they should happen. So we start making things happen in our own power, in our own strength. And then and then she also is blaming Yah, because her lack of understanding or her lack of maturity in her faith, she now is blaming her creator for the fact that she can't have children. And so she's really expressing that she doesn't really know or trust Yah the way that she should in this moment. And us being humble and being able to see ourselves and how we probably have done this multiple times in our lives, instead of going to the Father in prayer, we just say, oh, God did this, and God's not allowing me to have this right now, and I'm gonna do it this way, instead of talking about God. We're talking about God instead of praying to him about the situation, which can happen very easily and unintentionally, just in the midst of us heeding to our emotional state.
I wanted to add something to that, Samaria. She felt the need to help him. We don't have to help Yah. He don't need no help. And we have to realize that we got to stay in our place. And she was all the way out of alignment. So that's what I saw right there. Yah gave Abram a promise. He told him what was going to happen, what was going to go down. He's been faithful so far. He done got them to where they are and everything. And just because it's not happening in our timing, when we feel like it ought to happen, then now we want to go and put our hand in it and try to do something in our own strength, when Yah has already told us what he was going to do.
That's all right. We hit it on the nail, girl.
That's exactly it. It makes me think of this Bible verse. I think it's in Proverbs, like, dang, I can't remember where it is, but it's like men ruins their own life and then they blame Yah. And so like it's just like we know the story. Sarah ends up blaming all this stuff on everybody else. But let's just keep going. So when me and T were talking, you know, we saw the parallel of just like Abram listened to his wife when she told him to sleep with her hand, just like how Adam listened to Eve when being told to eat from the tree of good and evil.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this thing of like, I know we're not men, but you know, all of y'all are married. And so we see this thing of where like a wife's sway has a lot of power.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, and it wasn't like she was doing it intentionally. It was just that like, he loves his wife, so he wants to like listen to what she has to say, and he wants to like help ease her pain, or maybe he was doubting too. So he was like, yeah, that does sound like a good idea. Instead of reaffirming the promise that Yah told him, he should have reaffirmed the promise to her and be like, no, we're not doing that.
Absolutely.
You know? Kind of like Adam should have been like, no, we ain't doing that. You know? So it shows that our what's the word I'm looking for? Our connections to our loved ones can be detrimental if they go against what the word that Yah has given us. So like Sarah's doubt of promise influenced Abram's decisions, even though the promise was directly told to him, just like Adam. Abram should have affirmed the promise to Sarah instead of bending to her unbelief and her false claims about Yah, because you know she said a lot before saying sleep with my handmaiden, you know. So she's saying Yah has kept me from having children, and then she says go sleep with my wife, like, and we don't see Abram correct like Yah hasn't kept you from having children, we just need to wait, you know. It was just like, okay, yeah, you know, whatever. So there was no correcting of her false claims, and there was no I guess there was no contention with her unbelief. And I put maybe, you know, just my holy sanctified imagination, maybe he was also still like struggling with fully believing the promise. And then when Sarah came up with that solution, he was like, you know what, that kind of does make sense, you know, it can help speed the process along, you know. Unintentionally.
And that's where we mess up.
Yep. And that's exactly where we mess up.
That's when we want to try to put our little limited imagination into something that y'all have already spoken to us about, you know, when we're not patient.
Yeah. That is so true. And so, I also put on here, gotta read this part first. And so Abraham agreed, and he, you know, took the Egyptian slave Hagar, and she gave her to her husband to be his wife, and he slept with Hagar, and she conceived. And when she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Here goes Sarah again. Then Sarah said to Abram, you are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your hands, and now she knows she is pregnant. She despises me. Now she's gonna invoke Yah again. May Yah judge between you and me. So again, we got these false claims. So like you did something without consulting Yah, and now you want to bring Yah in the situation of your mess, saying, Yah, who right or wrong? Who judge between me and her? Because who's wrong? I need to be right. You know, like my husband did this to me. It's the what I put on here. Sarah allowed her insecurities and doubt of being able to produce an heir move her in a way that she thought would protect herself and her marriage, but obviously ended up hurting herself and projecting that hurt and her animosity towards everyone around her. And so I want to say this as we deal with people, and as we reflect on ourselves, where there's times, or maybe you're dealing with someone who, you know, they've made a mess of some things, but then now they're projecting their, I guess, the reality that what they thought how it was going to go didn't go, and now they're projecting it towards you or the people around you or your friends or your family members or your congregation, or maybe it's you that's doing the projecting, and you're just like, you know what, I actually am the one that set this chain reaction in motion because I thought it was the best idea, but now that it's turning sour, instead of taking the accountability, I'm like, you know what, I stepped out of line. I should have never moved like that. I should have never told my husband that he could produce an heir through another woman. Like that was, I did that out of desperation. And now I'm seeing that it was not the best option. you know, but that's not what the majority of people do. That's not what we do as people naturally, because we don't really move in a functional, healthy way. And so we're seeing the psychology. I hope we're seeing the psychology of human nature right here. You know, they can literally take this story and put it in a psychology class, and they should be able to break it down to and fro, left and right. Because that's what this is. The Bible covers everything. Mm-hmm. T, do you want to, because I know you had some notes on this part too.
Can y'all hear me?
Hey, T.
Hey. Hold on. Sorry. I hit my laptop and now it's like sounding funny.
It sounds good on this one.
Okay. It must just be on my end. My sound, I must have hit a speaker because the sound is kind of like choppy. But, sorry, I'm trying to get my thoughts together. Hold on 1 second.
In the notes, we're in the part, I think, where you started writing about when we begin to look to the left or to the right.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, I mean, y'all can see the notes, right? Everybody sees the notes.
Well, I don't think Natalie can.
Natalie can.
It's okay. My computer. Can y'all hear me still?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, my computer just froze. But it's okay because I can see him in the chat.
Oh, okay, no problem. No, I just ain't know if y'all wanted me to read it again, but I just basically put like when we begin to look to the right and the left, instead of looking to our Elohim, like instead of looking to Yah, who is all knowing, we start to lean on our own like fleshly understanding, which is, it not only causes like self-afflicted wounds, but it also wounds others. Like, you know, Sarah, she started, you know, to rationalize and was like, well, maybe this is how it's going to happen. And maybe this, maybe that. And so she took her eyes off of the promise and she started to, you know, try to figure it out for herself, lean on her own understanding. We know that's the flesh. So it not only affected her, but it affected Hagar. And then it was a trickle down effect in a sense, because, you know, you see Hagar, you know, she was excited about being pregnant and she felt like she got a little puffed up. Like, I'm carrying the promise now. So like, you know, so Sarah's actions kind of trickled down to Hagar. So it don't only affect us, the choices that we make. You know, we can either shine a light to somebody or we can cast a stumbling block before them. And, you know, in this case, she cast a stumbling block before herself, even because she saw that, you know, that wasn't it. Once she actually went through with it, she saw that, nah, I don't like this.
Right.
Yeah. And I also put in here too, like, so we're seeing the errors that can manifest into hurt and trauma in everybody. So like, so Hagar is under the leadership, is in the house through Abram and Sarah, like they are the heads of house. So Hagar is learning everything about who Yah is and his character through these two people. And so this is kind of like an example of leadership. And so for us to be aware that our leadership are just humans as well, who are also going through their own process of sanctification, and they don't have it all figured out, and they are dealing with things, and they have uncleanliness that's in them that can affect how they treat and operate within their leadership, unbeknownst to them. If they're not like doing the refining and the reflecting that they should be, it can be, we see so many like conversations about church hurt, and this is the blueprint of church hurt right here. Wow. Is that Abram and Sarah are these leaders. They're dealing with their unbeliefs. They're making moves without consulting the father. They're moving out of order. Hagar then gets like, she's swept up in the sense of like, under their authority, she agrees, you know, to have this baby. But in the midst of her agreeing to that, her errors start to become apparent as well. So it's like, yes, she's still a victim, but it still doesn't negate the fact that she also is suffering abuse from leadership as well. So we're not shifting blame from anybody. Everybody has a little bit of blame here, because like T said, Hagar starts getting puffed up in the fact that, oh, I'm not a handmaiden anymore. Now I'm a wife. I'm carrying this baby. I am carrying the child of promise that Sarah couldn't do. So now, because of her, sometimes our errors only manifest when we're like moved into a position of power, or we get a change in status or a change of authority. That's when some of our errors become apparent, because you know how they say you can give a man a lot of money and then you'll really see his character, or you can give people money and then you'll really see their character. That's kind of this for Hagar's situation. She got a pay raise in a sense, you know, when it comes to societal. Her societal ranking was elevated, and now boom, now she's becoming arrogant and haughty all of a sudden.
She's got a promotion.
Yep, she got a promotion.
You know, handmaid no more.
Oh, wait, we did want to cover the cultural context of that too. So everybody kind of tries to use this example. I know a lot of people who are in camps and assemblies use this example as like, oh yeah, Abraham had multiple wives. Actually, this is actually not polygamy. So we want to say that just so people can have the information and the knowledge that this is actually not polygamy. This is actually called polycody, which is the addition of handmaidens or concubines for strictly the purpose of producing an heir for adoption. So what happened here is not like, oh, he had multiple wives. No, like Sarah having this handmaiden was a backup plan in case she was barren. So really Sarah, in her cultural mind, in like society of like, this is the norm. The norm is that if your wife is barren, then your handmaiden would have a child for you, and that child wouldn't be hers, it would be yours. So culturally, she's just invoking her marital contracting right. It wasn't like, oh yeah, my husband's getting another wife because I can't have a baby. Like, this was the cultural norm to have handmaidens. If you were barren, that they were basically just a womb. This woman wasn't a wife; she was just a womb to give you a child, to give you an heir. That's it. And so I thought that was interesting, like breaking down the cultural context. So a lot of people who don't read their word or know the context of the culture, they'll take their worldly secular mind of what they think is going on here and say like, oh yeah, there's multiple wives. That's not what that was. And that's why it's so important for us to read and study our Bible and know the culture in the context of things. I'll post that definition here too. Oh, I think is it in there?
What'd you say?
Oh, I was trying to make sure I posted the definition in the chat. So Natalie.
Yeah, you did. It's in there.
I know it's in the notes, but I don't think it's in the chat. Yeah, I put culture and context notes. But
yeah, that's pretty interesting. I don't think I knew that, because you know they had that show out, The Handmaid's Tales, and you know they tried to use that scripture. Supposedly that's what they were doing, and they, you know, but these women were basically in slavery and bondage or whatever, you know, they were limited to what they could do and all this kind of stuff. And you know, they were supposedly bearing a child for the wife and all this kind of stuff or whatever, you know. This is, but I didn't know like during their time, like that person wasn't considered like a wife, like she didn't have status as wife.
Yeah, I actually want to break down that word really quickly in my blue letter, because it says, and he took her for a wife,
right?
You know, and so, but she's still considered like Sarah's still handmaid. Like, yeah, so it's
she
like
wasn't an equivalent. Yeah, right, so because he was like, you can do what you will, you know, she's still your handmaid. So this definition makes more sense, you know, in the context of, okay, we just using her to get the child, you know, she's nothing to me, you still my wife, and whatever you say, you still the woman of this house, you know. That's a great, interesting point to bring forward, you know, as we like dive deeper, you know, as our Bible study is saying, you know, to bring these things out that we're not that's not in the forefront of our mind, you know, when really breaking it down and looking at it, because you read these words and you say these things and I mean, like, we kind of know it, but to actually sit and discuss it and, to dissect it, it brings deeper revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just like, okay, if it was his wife, why is she still being referred to as Sarah's mistress, Sarah's handmaiden?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Because like, when we get into like the covenant with like Yahuwah and all of Israel, and he's breaking down the whole multiple wife situations, he makes it very clear that your first wife and your second wife, like their raiment cannot decrease after you take on another, wife.
What? Yeah.
And so, but for in this situation, that's not what we see here.
Mm-mm.
Right.
It's very much, she's not, like, she may have thought she had a higher status, but she was reminded very quickly,
You don't.
you're not a wife, so I'm about to humble
Yeah.
you, I'm about to mistreat you to remind you that, like, you are not a wife, you are still my slave.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Abram shared that sentiment of being like, do with her what you want. That's not something a husband would say if he was taking on another wife, in the sense of wife. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I was like, dang, look, we done read this all wrong. Like, we thinking like sister wives fighting, and that's not what this is at all.
No.
Yeah.
But you could see it, but I think we kind of glossed over it. You know what I'm saying? Because you could actually see it. But like I said, as we sit here and we dissect it, you really get the revelation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was good. Good point. Good point, Samaria, T, for bringing that out. Wow.
Yeah, I was just like reading. I was like, oh snap, we need to add that in there, because I feel like, for me it was interesting, and I was like, wow. And then it says like Sarah was just simply invoking the terms of their marriage contract. Like, this was just the way things were done in the Near East.
Because my husband and I were having a conversation about something, and I had said something to him. He was like, but babe, that's what they did back. Men had women, they slept with them, and they did. And I was like, yeah, but some. And then, now here it comes up again. I need to figure out, I need to go back and talk with him about that again to see what exactly were we discussing, because this sheds a new light on it for me.
Yeah. And when I read that part about like concubines and handmaidens bring no dowry, only their fertility, it makes me think about, again, the story with like Leah and Rachel, and why they were just like, here, take my handmaidens. Like, they just use them like props to be like, hey, I need more kids, you sleep with my handmaiden. It wasn't like, it was interesting.
Yeah, because preserving the line was more important than anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Look at us with these cultural nuggets. Yes. And so she said, I put my slave in your arms, and now she knows she is pregnant. She despises me. May Yahuwah judge between you and me. And then he says, your slave is in your hands. Do with her whatever you think is best. And then Sarah mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. And so Sarah clearly did not take the high route. Abram said, do what you want with her, and she did what she wanted with her. She was vindictive, she was rude, she was hateful to her. And I really just want to, I know there are so many women that I've had conversation with, and some men too, who've come from camps or who come from assemblies or churches, whatever institution you come from, where this has been their reality. And sometimes Hagar could have took her experience that she had with Sarah and Abram and been like, the God that he's serving is horrible, because look how they're treating me.
Right.
And we see that a lot of time when people, when they actually fall away from the belief of who Yah is, based on how someone else treated them, and not based on them actually getting to know the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it's very easy to do. And like on a fleshly side speaking, you would be like, they're justified because this person's supposed to be the pastor or the moray or the head of the camp, and they should be endowed with the Holy Spirit, but they're acting like this and they're doing all these horrible things to me. They mistreated me, they abused me, they used me. We hear stories of people being raped and sexually assaulted in churches. But that's not because that Yah did that to them or that Yah was justifying their actions. It was that person just was not sanctified. That person had their own uncleanliness and their own demons and their own strongholds within them that were not worked out. And then it bled over onto the congregation, the people that were underneath them. And like, T was saying, you get hurt and then everybody else is affected by the uncleanliness or by the hurt in that person who is quote unquote the leader in that position. And so I want to read this expert that I wrote because it's about this whole situation. It's called Damaging the Leaders, Damaging the People. And we can all agree that Abram was a righteous man, but yet so much dysfunction happened because of his stumbling and purging of trauma during his own surrender process to God. This account that we're reading highlights the imperfections of human leadership, even among those who earnestly seek to follow Yah, while also showcases though the perfectness of Yah. Although all kinds of hurt happen, it will never stop Yah from meeting us one-on-one, which we're going to read about when the angel of Yah finds Hagar. It's never going to stop Yah from meeting with us one-on-one in our own personal surrender to him. We take the opportunity to know Yah and to be known by him. But if our view and experience of Yah is shaped by those who are called by Yah, a people who are also in the process of being still and getting to know him and being delivered from decay in their own hearts, then our conclusion and knowledge of who Yah is will always be wrong and tainted, because it will be based on quote unquote our truths and the actions and errors of others. And so Hagar did not seek to be with Abraham. Hagar did not seek to steal him from Sarah. Yet Sarah's own insecurities and lack of trust in Yah's word revealed the uncleanliness and the brokenness within her own heart. Her actions were not born out of a desire to sin or rebel, but rather from an unhealed wound within her heart, leading her to bitterness and hostility towards a woman who should have been under her care, someone who was supposed to witness Yah's promised protection and prosperity in their house. And so that's just something. I don't want to read all of it because it's pretty long, because I keep going and going. But that's just kind of what Yah was revealing to me as I was reading through this the last time. Because it just speaks to it speaks to the hearts of a lot of people who are going through how to process or deal with hurt. It doesn't even have to be church hurt or organized religion. It could be family structure. It could be your mother and your father, or you growing up as a child and you see and experiencing how they treated you, and they're saying that they love God and they drag you to church every Sunday and all these different things. But like when you're at home, you know how they really act, or you know how they made you feel or what they do behind closed doors. And you can question, like, the God that you serving clearly isn't working, because look how you're treating your own children. Look at how you're treating the people around you. And so it's just for us to know that, like, we can't look towards men to understand Yah. Mm-hmm. And yeah. And then there was verse 7. The angel of Yahuwah found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road Shur. And he said, Hagar, slave of Sarah, where have you come from and where are you going? And she says, I'm running away from my mistress Sarah. Then the angel of Yahuwah told her, go back to your mistress and submit to her. I want to stop here. Imagine you just ran from your abuser. You just ran from the person who has hurt you deeply, wounded you, verbally assaulted you, physically assaulted you, and you done ran off and you found a quiet space and you're trying to figure out what you're gonna do next, and Yah tells you to go back there. That's not what most people would agree is the right move. Most people would tell you to distance yourself from that abusive situation. Distance, I'm definitely not condoning like physical battery abuse. Like, that's not what I'm saying. You guys know what I'm saying. Yah's telling you to go back to the place that caused the wound. And if you're speaking to most people, they'll tell you to run, like don't go back to where you were. And you know, this is a side note that T wrote on the Messenger of Yah, which is also found in our Culture and Context Bible. It talks about the messenger or the angel of Yahuwah. The messenger, as we know, all the angels served as intermediaries, which was a full vestment representation of the party he represented. And we want to be like, obviously, foreshadow, this is what Yahusha is. He spoke for the party. So the representative or the messenger always speaks for the party and with the authority of that party. The messenger was accorded the same treatment as the party would enjoy were he were there in person. While this is standard protocol, there was no confusion about the person's identity. Like, there's no confusion that this is the angel of Yah, but as he's here being the representative, I'm going to treat you with the same respect as if you are Yah himself speaking to me. That is what this is saying. This explains how the angel in this chapter can comfortably use the first person to convey what Yah will do. And then it goes on in verse 10, like, when official words are spoken by the representative, everyone understands that he is not speaking for himself, but is merely conveying the words, opinions, policies, and decisions of his liege or of his power, who he's speaking for. This is literally what Yahusha is for us. Yes. Just, you know, like, yo, it's like, this has always been the order and how Yah has spoken to the people. He'll always send a messenger or an angel to come and speak his direct word. You know, it literally says, like, you know, the angel of Yahuwah says, go back to, like, it was like the angel just came up with this thought. The angel saying what Yah told the angel to tell Hagar. Tell Hagar, go to your mistress and submit to her. That's a word from Yahuwah. That's not a word from the angel itself, like it had its own thought. Like, literally, I'm not saying nothing in my own words. These are not my words. These are my opinions. And that makes you think Yahusha says, I don't come in my own name. I didn't come to do my own will. I'm here to do what I'm doing what my father has told me. Nothing that I'm saying is coming from me. Like, Yahusha consistently said that. To remind us, like, I am the physical representative. I embody everything that my father is saying and wants you all to know. And I'm supposed to be getting the respect as if as he's sitting right here in front of you. That's when he was telling the disciples, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. This is the breakdown that everybody knew, that you were supposed to treat the representative with the same respect that as if Yahuwah was with you here in person, which he is Elohim with us. So thank you so much, T, for like popping that in there, because we had both read it, but I just forgot to add it to the notes. And I'm like, you know, she'd be like, we'd be like second brain for each other. Like, I'll put something in here that she forgot, but I'm like, we can't forget this one. So thank you so much, sis, for like putting this in here as a reminder. This is a big side note. This can really help people understand, like, culture context. This right here can really help people understand who are struggling with who is Yahusha question, you know? Yeah.
All praise to Abba.
All praise to Abba. Okay, so I also want to break down this Yah spoke to Hagar in the wilderness, because when I saw this, y'all, I was in my room sitting stuck for days, like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is so amazing. But I put like, so yeah, because of, the brutal treatment from Sarah and the lack of protection from Abram, Hagar justifiably runs away. Everyone was moving and out of order, like Coach Latanya said. Like, Sarah had just moved so out of alignment, which everyone was moving in error from that point on. That decision was out of order. Everybody else was also in out of orderness. And so when sin is active, or when you're in out of order and your error is active, people are hurt, traumatized, and abused. But then something beautiful happens. It doesn't seem like something beautiful happened, but something beautiful happens in this space. Hagar is forced to be in a place of stillness. She's forced to be in a place of humility, like deep humility. She's seen the chaos of what it looks like to move in her own authority. She was moving in her own authority by being puffed up and acting arrogant. So that was her own, justifying her own ways in a sense. So she's seeing the chaos of what ensues when you do your own thing, and how worthless her actions are. And she sees the people who are supposed to be in covenant with Yah acting out. And I'm just speculating, but I can only imagine that she is in disbelief at the situation she's currently in, questioning the goodness and the protection of Yah. She's pregnant. She's alone. She's been mistreated. She's been disregarded. And there's no one to save her. She is by herself with a baby growing inside of her. And that is a very place to be in the ancient Near East. No covering, no protection. A child on the way. This is not like today where there's resources available for you. You are destitute.
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in.
Sorry, Mom.
I was like, who is this man talking?
You start playing.
No.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. You good? She needs to be delivered from her distress. And it is in this moment where the angel finds her by the fountain of water in the wilderness. And this is kind of like an English speaking oxymoron, because in the wilderness denotes a lack of water. Found a fountain of water in the wilderness, which is like, I was like, hey.
Yeah.
And he shows but showing us that she was found by a source of restoration in the otherwise dry place, which mirrors that her heart posture was ready to receive the word of Yah.
That's good.
And I was just like, wow. So the verse found her by the fountain of water in the wilderness was captivating my attention, and I could not just like let it go. The Holy Spirit was like, go deeper. So I looked up the Hebrew word for each word and unveiled, and it's like this very poetic, like reaffirming of Yah's character, which the word fountain in Hebrew is synonymous with the word eye, like E-Y-E, like literally the eye of Yah. Like he's literally looking at her with the intimate gaze in the wilderness. Like the fountain of water is his eye. He's literally intently looking at her. He knows where she is. That's that. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there I will plead with you face to face. That's literally what's happening here. That was Ezekiel 20:35.
Wow.
And so when y'all was like, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you blowing my mind. Whoa. But like, yo, and this is what he's telling to all of us. This is what he's saying to us. So when you feel like you're in the wilderness, Yah is telling you, I'm the one that brought you into this wilderness because I'm pleading with you face to face. And then the word water and wilderness are definition of, it's like showing this transient or this transformative space where Yah's divine speech should propel you forward. The imagery of immersion or baptism should start to resonate here, because it's the notion that the wilderness is the place where Yah's conversation with humanity is. And within this dialogue are layers that range from his commandments to his promises and his warnings. All this happens here in the wilderness. And so this is what happens with Hagar. You know, like he commands her, go back and submit to your mistress. But he also gives her the promise that like, hey, I know that you're gonna give birth to a son. How about this? You shall name him Ishmael because Yahuwah has heard your misery. So he's affirming her, he's commanding her, and then he's gonna promise that, like, you know, your child gonna be blessed too. And so all of this is happening in the midst of her most despaired moment. Yeah. It's a lot. And
it's like, in your weakness, I am strong. You know, he showed himself strong in that moment, you know, to her. He met her right where she was, and he reassured her, you know, where she felt like totally discarded and everything, you know. Then he came and the promise keeper showed up, you know, and gave her a promise about her seed.
Yeah.
He sent her back into a place where she, you know, was going to be uncomfortable, but he gave her a hope. He gave her something to look forward to, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. And he also gave her, I mean, he essentially, it was like a twofold thing, because like he told her to humble, pretty much like she had to humble herself, you know, even though she was hurt, to go back, you know, and submit to the person who hurt her, like Samaria brought out earlier. But also that causes the person who hurt her to essentially humble themselves, because when you brought with the situation, when the situation comes back to you, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you see that person is, even though you treated them that way, just like anything, if you treat somebody something bad and they continue to show you kindness, it humbles you. Like, it teaches you, you know what I'm saying? Like, humility, like, wow, like, you know, like you should ultimately be convicted that, like, you know, that's not the way I should have went about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it shows you, you know, the character that you were operating in. So essentially, because we don't hear, and me and Samaria kind of like thought about this when we were reading it together, like, you don't hear any other contentions between Hagar and Sarah, or like Abraham, or any situations, you know, at least that we know of, after she went back to submit herself. It was like a humbling experience for all of them. And y'all don't have no respect of person. So like, when a leader can send you away out of out of their flesh, because they're operating in their flesh, but y'all don't have no respect of person, he can still work through that person. You know what I'm saying? Like, he could still work with that person and bless that person. It don't have to come through them, the leader. So sometimes, like, that's another thing, like when we're talking about like leadership, and like, you know, like, not obviously, you know, you submit to, you know, righteous leadership, you know what I'm saying? But like, sometimes, like Samaria said, like, we have to understand that some leaders, they are human, you know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes, like, you know, it might be a factor of like, while they're going through their process, they might, you know, there's no, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's nothing that would put them aside from operating in the flesh as well. Like, we're all like, you know, we all are in the flesh, you know, like in this flesh. So they can obviously do something out of flesh, and y'all still can, you know, bless that person in that situation. So I don't know if I explained that right, but like, we were talking about it, and it was just like, he still blessed her, even in the midst of her pridefulness, even in the midst of Sarah's, you know, lack of faith. He still blessed Hagar and her child. And then also, he sent her back to humble herself before Sarah, and that ultimately had to cause Sarah to humble herself, because like, you have to humble you. Somebody coming back to you and like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, you know, blah blah blah. You gonna what? Be like, no, I don't accept your apology. Like, that's not of y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, ultimately, that is, you know, you humbling yourself as well, to know that I didn't do the right thing and I didn't handle this person correctly.
Yeah. I experienced something like that. My husband and I are dual military, or were dual military. We're retired now. And we both got orders to deploy at the same time. And we were in Germany at the time. And my son had been diagnosed, I deployed in 2015. My son was diagnosed with diabetes in 2013. On December 25th, he stayed in the hospital for like a month. And then he got out in January 2014. And then, so like a year later, here I am deploying. His doctor and everything was like, I don't think it's wise for you guys to leave at this time, with your son being newly diagnosed. And again, we were overseas. And so the only support system that we had was other military, members, whatever. And so we activated as a dual military family, we have to have something called a family care plan. So we activated our family care plan, and it was some people that was really close and dear to us, leaders in our church, and actually our pastors or whatever. So they were our family care plan people or whatever. So I left we left in April of 2015. My husband left a week before I did. I hadn't even been in my deployed location a month before I received an email from them saying we need to find somewhere for our kids to go. They needed to leave, they had to go. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm in Cyprus. My husband is in Afghanistan. And when we were going through the whole thing with my son, our church was super supportive. Everybody showed up. And so, we were like, okay, yeah, these are some people we can rely on. And we had all asked the questions, hey, do I need to bring my mom over? Are you guys sure? And, they were like, yes, we got this. Y'all go, do what you got to do or whatever. I even tried to get out of the deployment, and my commander and nobody would support me. So anyway, we went, like I said, less than a month into my deployment, I'm told that I need to find somewhere for my kids to go. So I'm stressed out, and I'm praying, and long story short, my daughter was in college in the States. She ended up having to come to Germany to watch her sister and brother while me and my husband was deployed. My husband ended up coming back in August, and then I had to finish out my deployment. I didn't get back until like the end of October, beginning of November. So these were some people that they're people. And, y'all had already revealed to me that we can't put pastors or whomever on pedestals or whatever. They're still people, and they still miss the mark. And when this happened, I was like, whoa, it was like a serious blow, because we was like really, really close. Like I was super active in our church and all this kind of stuff over the women's ministry on the praise team, just and for them to call and tell us that we need to come and get our kids, they had to go. And I'm like, but my kids don't have nowhere to go. And they was like, well, they got to go. And so I'm over there, I'm praying, I'm distraught about it. And then as I'm praying and I'm, just trying to seek Yah about what we need to do, he tells me that when we go back, we have to go back to that church. And I was like, what? I need to go back where and do what? With who? I was just like, yeah, you joking, right? This is like, are you kidding me? It was so like, I was heartbroken, one. And then now you telling me I got to go back and submit up under these people that just put my kids out on the street. And so, I mean, that was a tough situation. My husband was basically like, well, you can go back. I ain't going nowhere. I was like, oh my gosh. He was like, yeah, no. He was like, I'm not doing it. And so the thing that Yah told me, he said, you have to go back so that you can show them how to love. He said, so they can see a physical example of my love. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to, what they did to my kids. I don't want to do that. And oh, y'all, man, that thing was tough, to sit there and we were really, really tight. And so, I was sharing with Samaria this week. I was like, we used to pray together often and all this kind of stuff. And the ironic thing about it, y'all, is my daughter married their son.
Wow.
So now they're our family.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Doing.
So y'all, I'm like, y'all, you real funny.
He ain't funny. No, he doing.
Like, y'all, whoa. And like, so to this day, my kids don't really know like what all transpired, because I want to tell them that. I don't want them to feel some type of way towards them or whatever. And I still pray for them. We still talk to each other. We still call each other. But that closeness and that bond of that relationship isn't the same that it was. But and I don't even know. It's been different, to say the least, y'all. That was like a very humbling situation, for me. And I know it was awkward for her, and we still have to deal with each other.
Yeah.
That's like
Thank you for sharing, sis.
You said thank you for sharing, Akoti.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when she was telling me that, this was like, you have to share that this week, because we're literally like, you are literally Hagar.
Yes.
Go back. You like, what?
I said, I was sitting on my bed. I was just bawling, crying. I was like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. I was like, you can't see me back. Why would you do that to me? Why would you? These people. I was so hurt. I was so hurt. I was so hurt. I was like, my one, Akoti told me, my one sister, she was like, you a good one. She was like, you a good one. I was like, no, it's all y'all. But we have to be obedient to what he said, because because I like now, like she can call me and she know I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna, I'm gonna do what y'all calls me to do or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But it made me realize, like what we're saying with leadership, I didn't have them on a pedestal. I didn't think or whatever, I just felt like that was a relationship. Those were people that I could trust and everything. And for that trust to be broken like that, because my babies were 16 and 8. Wait, no. Let me see. Avery was diagnosed when he was 8, so they were 9 and 14. 9 and 14.
Wow.
Yeah, or I think my baby turned 10 and Mari was turning 15. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, my kids have nowhere to go. They I was like, can you please? She was like, you need to figure something out. I was like, how cold-blooded can you be? I was just blown away. I just couldn't believe it.
Isn't that like?
But Yah is faithful. He's faithful. He's so super faithful.
Mm-hmm.
He's so good.
That talks about like, or maybe not a proverb, where like when you're kind and that like heaps ashes on their head or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's that. Akoti T says something like that. Like when you're kind to people after they wronged you, literally like so wow. Thank you for sharing. That was wow.
Yeah.
Like, we have these like, I feel like we talked about before, sometimes we can read Genesis and really make it feel like we're so far away from what's going on, but it's like, nah. This is very present. These are situations that happen every day.
Yeah.
And like this whole like Latanya's story, Hagar's journey, like this is showing like the journey of forgiveness, and like how like this is really embodying like Yahushua's teaching of forgiveness and humility, like that forgive them their trespasses against us.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That is like that person trespassed deeply. And that prayer says, we're saying that, like, we say this prayer very casually sometimes, but like, if we really look at the words, like you're saying, Father, like, forgive them their trespasses against us as you forgive, we trespass against you.
Mm-hmm.
it's like you want that same level of like forgiveness when we misstep and miss the mark unintentionally. Like I don't know if that person intentionally did it or not, you know, like but we're still like saying, Father, forgive them. Like that's Yahushua saying, forgive them for they know not what they do. Like even though our ancestors was very vindictive, like yes, let his blood be on us and our kids. Like whoa,
whoa,
Wow.
you know, he said that knowing like, that they literally just said that out their mouth. Like, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. But they literally just said, yeah, kill him. Let his blood be on us and our descendants.
like why would they say that?
You know what I'm saying? Like, and he still said, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because if they truly do, they wouldn't have said.
And our children's children.
Right.
Like, for real right now.
Literally.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I was praying about that this morning. I was like, "Ooh, yeah, stuff that our ancestors did. You know, forgive us. You know, help. Ooh, let it be broken. You know." I always pray. I was like, "Yeah, let it not go down to my children or my children's children. Let it be broken with me and my husband. Let us, you know, break that stuff off right now. You know, we." Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to say this, that like Yah doesn't tell us to forgive others for the sake of just forgiveness, but it's for like our own cleansing of
For our own.
liberation from the state of hurt and abuse, to show and to prove that he is the Elohim of healing.
Hallelujah.
Like the word forgiveness in Hebrew means literally pardon, to spare, to show oneself to show oneself gently. It really shows like lifting up or lightening the burden of emotions, pain, and affliction. To literally pardon, to keep those feelings no longer. Forgiveness prevents that pain, that bitterness from becoming idols in our hearts. You know, while the emotions are natural, but they're natural, but holding on to them is never healthy, and that's not natural. And then, you know, we see as we keep reading, you know, we see that like the angel says, I will increase your descendants so much they will be too numerous to keep. And the angel of Yah also said to her, you are now pregnant and you will give birth to a son, and you shall name him Ishmael, for Yahuwah has heard your misery. And this is where he gonna be a wild donkey of a man, and his hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. He will live in hostility towards all his brothers. She gave this name to Yahuwah, who spoke to her. You are the Elohim who sees me. I have seen the one who sees me. And that, when I read that, when I was writing this part of the book, I was crying, y'all. Because it's like, if you ever had that moment where like you've had that experience with Yah, you're sitting with him in the wilderness and his eyes intently on you, and you're just like, oh no, he's real. He sees me. He sees my pain. He sees what I've gone through. He's not deaf to what has happened to me. He knows what has happened to me. He wants to heal what has happened to me. He still wants to rectify this thing. He wants to prosper me. He wants to care for me. Like, I didn't know that he saw me. But he sees me, and I see that he sees me, so I see him. And it's like Sarah had an encounter with Yah before Sarah did. And I think that is the only reason, like T was saying, that's the only reason it's in this space that she's getting healed in the presence of Yah, that she's even able to say, to hear, go back, and she'll do it, because she's like, you know what? I've been in the presence of the healer. I've been in the presence of the one who already told me what he's gonna do for me, and how I'm gonna be okay regardless of what they do to me after this. So I can go back, and I've been healed from my arrogance and my pride. I'm not gonna be haughty when I go back anymore. So that's not even in me. Sarah has nothing to be offended of. There's nothing in me that she can use to fight with me anymore, because I've been healed from that thing. Like,
I don't know to that, sis.
Yeah.
that was so good what you said, because when we talk about like, dang, I feel like the thought just like went from my head. Ugh. When you just said, it triggered it when you just said she was healed from that thing. So she, okay, come back. I'll come back. I'm sorry. It was like literally on the tip of my tongue, and then like it just went away. The thought went away.
No, it's gonna come back. But yeah, so as soon as the angel of Yah like commands, all of this to Hagar, Yah also is affirming her situation with comfort. She's with child, or AKA she has a product or she has a result of her situation is now going to be memorialized. So sometimes we go through things, we go through hurt or trauma, and we have something now from this situation that memorializes the entire ordeal that happened to us, which is literally her being pregnant with Ishmael was a product of all the trauma and the errors that happened at the hand of Sarah and Abram. She didn't ask for Ishmael. Ishmael was something that they did to her. So Yah heard your misery. That's like the product of what happened to you is memorialized in the name that, like, as Yah's talking to you, he doesn't want you to forget and put it in the back of your head like it never happened. He wants you to see it, to recognize it, so that you know that he knows about it. It's kind of like he's like, I'm not unaware of what's going on with you. Like, so in this whole entire encounter, Yah is literally saying, like, Yah is the maker. He's the Elohim that says, I was never deaf to the injustice. I was never deaf to the wrongdoing that happened to you. It's highlighting his character. That Hagar was such in a deep space of intimate knowing with him that she literally calls him by his character, the one who sees me. Like, whoa.
And even in the midst of Sarah and Abraham, trying to help Yah out, if you will, look at all the descendants that came from, because he told Abram that, or he was going to have descendants that, outnumbered the stars and all this kind of stuff. You could count the stars. And look at Ishmael. I mean, like, through Hagar, and how many, she was going to have, 12 sons and all this kind of stuff too. It's a huge, a whole nother nation, if you will, of people. Because Abram, he had that promise to him. He had given him that promise, and they didn't went over here and corrupted it, but it still went forward.
Yeah.
And that's why we got all this mess going on now.
The thought came back. I was gonna say like that Yah healed. We already went over that he healed something in Hagar, like, but sometimes, like, that's another thing of wanting to be seen. Like in the situation with Abram and Sarai, like they didn't truly see Hagar at that point. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they didn't see her with righteous eyes, let me say. Or they just didn't see her. She didn't feel seen, like, and it's like for Yah to be like, you hit it, like you literally see my hurt and my pain, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it just goes to show that you can be around people, who are supposed to be able to bring comfort. We're supposed to be able to bring comfort to one another, when we're going through certain things. And just, like when we see that we've hurt each other, you know what I'm saying? Like those are the things that we're supposed to do as brothers and sisters, as the body of Hamashiach. And she didn't feel seen with, it just that thought just came to my head, like, like, wow, like she was like, you saw me, like, some people just want to be seen. And other people around them are there, but they don't truly see, that person. Anybody can be high in pain. Like, I know so many times I've been around people smiling, but deep down inside, like, I was hurting, you know, like I was going through so much, you know, just hiding, you know, putting on that face. But you know, if you're operating in the spirit, you know, a lot of times the Most High, especially if you're being obedient to him, a lot of times the Most High, you know, will reveal those things to you, or be able to give you the discernment to be whatever you need to be for that person at that time, you know, for them to, for you to be that representation of the Most High. That's what Sarai and Abram was supposed to be for Hagar. And they didn't see her. So that just kind of came to my mind, sis, when you were talking about he saw her, like, you know, and that's what Yah does for us. Like, you know, that's who he is for all of us. You know, he sees, he's the all knowing, he's the only one that can see, you know, truly in our hearts, you know, and in our minds, you know, to know our thoughts. So
and he reminded her that he saw her. You know what I'm saying? So that thing probably that she was longing for and seeking after, you know, he confirmed in her, you know, like, I see you, you know. They may not see you, you know, they may have just looked at you as a womb or whatever, but I see you, daughter. I know who you are, you know, I see your hurt and all this kind of stuff, you know. And so this is the promise that I'm making to you. So no matter what these people, what everybody around you is saying and doing or whatever, the person that matters the most sees you.
Yeah. It was like to really know Yah, like when you know him, there you have no choice but to be transformed.
Yeah.
She literally took off her pride and her pain in the presence of his face. And because of that encounter, she was able, you know, to live in peace with Sarah and Abram, you know, who may have not had that transformative experience for themselves the way that Hagar had it, you know. You know, and kind of like even in Latina's situation, when one person is just yielded to the word of Yah, or to the surrender process, peace and grace is given.
Yeah, because that's what he gave to me. Because at first I was just like,
right,
whatever. Well, I'm telling you, when I sat with that thing, y'all, and I cried it all out, and I got it all out, and I was trying to get my husband over there with me, but he was like, nah. But yeah. So God's faithful, you know, and he long suffers with us, you know. And oh no, this later on. I'm about to jump ahead. Go ahead.
But yeah, like T was saying, like, you know, whatever was in her, like she was delivered from it, like from whatever it be, insecurity, comparison, pride, like when she was in the face of Yah, like he blessed her and her seed, and you know, she returned, not even to compare and boast about that. Okay, well, you know, you got a promise. Well, Yah gave me my own promise. Like that was
right.
That was in her. Like, I don't even need to tell you what Yah told me, what he's gonna do for me and this child. Like she returned, not even needing our to boast about what Yah has said to her.
It was like that forgiveness. Like she received the forgiveness, you know, it's like she forgave, and it was for her, you know, that healing, forgiveness, and that healing was for her. So when she came, it's like I don't even have to, like, that is completely healed within me, you know. I've forgiven you, so I don't even have to bring it back up, because like I'm healed.
That's good.
And I know I put this down in the notes a little bit, but since we already read that verse about Ishmael, and him giving Yah giving Hagar the that promise, in the notes I just put like that, like Sarai and like Abram, they birthed unnecessary confusion, literally, like with Ishmael, because Hagar birthed him, who Yah told her that he gonna be a wild man. His hand gonna be against everybody. He gonna have beef with everybody, and everybody gonna have beef with him. In other words, you know, in layman's terms, and you know, that's what sin causes. Like that sin, it causes that confusion, that strife, that animosity, and most importantly, like, well, not even most importantly, but just like most of all, it causes separation. It was like, wow, like he told her, like, yeah, like I'm gonna bless you, but he is gonna be a wild man. He is gonna his hand is gonna be against everybody, and everybody's hand is gonna be against him, and he gonna live in hostility with his brothers. And it's like that is that looking to the left or the right, you know, like because when we get off of the path of righteousness and we stop walking towards the life source, which is Yah, then we create these unnecessary paths. I don't know if y'all watch I'm like, or maybe used to be, let me say, like big on like Marvel and like DC. And so there's a Flash movie where he was going back and he was like tampering with like the timeline, and he was creating all these different timelines. Like he was going back in time, which was creating all these different like timelines. So he was like going these different situations, you know, like these different scenarios. And it created like a whole bunch of different timelines. And they started to like kind of like, you know, trickle into one another. But I'm just bringing that up to just show like we can create our own mess. Like, you know, they don't have nothing to do with Yah, because Yah's path is still the narrow path that's going straight. We can create all these other shortcuts. You know, we think we're creating a shortcut, but really we're creating a hazard for ourselves. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we have to continue on, you know, through that hazard and find our way back to the righteous path, you know, like the path that Yah has set for us. So it's like, you know what I'm saying, you know, the road is going straight and you see all the road signs telling you to go straight, but you like, but I think I can go this way and it's gonna get me there a little faster. And you end up breaking down, hitting a pothole, you know, like all this stuff, like, you know, you in a bad neighborhood, all this stuff like happens when you try to take, you know, those other paths. And that was one of the things that happened, you know, Ishmael, yes, something good happened out of it, you know, with Hagar, but also like it was just unnecessary, you know, contention that was birthed as well.
And it ended up being like literally Ishmael is like literally the fleshly representation of the entire situation.
Yeah.
You know, like because it was so out of order and it caused literal confusion, animosity, and separation. That is what Ishmael's descendants are, literally hostility towards all his brothers, because hostility is what she was going through because of the situation of their own decision making.
Yeah.
Like it was literally because Sarah had confusion, because she had a separation in her mind of like what Yah was gonna do. She made her own plan, which caused more separation, which caused her to be at odds with everybody, with Abram, blaming Yah, blaming Hagar. It was just not, it literally, what you said, sis, that it like the whole situation was confusion, strife, animosity, and separation. And for that to literally be Ishmael being this wild man that's against and living in hostility with everybody around him is the entire manifestation of that situation.
Yep.
Like it's a forever memorial marker of a misstep, and it plagues Abram's descendants forever.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, you know, Yah gives us grace to make our own mistakes, but like, best believe you still may have to live with the consequences.
Yep.
Of those actions. Like, yeah, you have grace, you've been saved, you've been redeemed from it, but now you still have to deal with the things that you created out of your own, you know, your own understanding that was not, you know, wisdom.
That's just like, you know, that's literally like just an example of like when I got pregnant at 19 years old, my parents supported me, but they were like, best believe, they paid for everything, but best believe, you know, I had to suffer the consequences. I had to get up in the middle of the night. You know what I'm saying? Like I was 19, so you would think like, oh, you grown, but I was still living with my parents at 19. And you know, like I was like, y'all not gonna help me with this baby? They were like, no. Like, they were like, you gonna get up in the middle of the night, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course, like I knew I had to do those things, but like, it's like, just because we've given you grace and we've supported you through this, that don't mean you're not gonna have to suffer the consequences of the decision that you made, you know?
Right.
No, you still gonna have to go through it. So, hey, you got to get to this doctor's appointment. You got to take your baby here. I need you to make it happen. You don't have a car? Get on the bus. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's Yah. He like, look, I didn't gave you grace. You know what I'm saying? Like, but also you gonna have to deal with this, you know, confusion that you birthed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's like, it's so funny how like we literally have these everyday like interactions, you know what I'm saying, of like these same things, and we don't really like recognize it, you know, until I don't know, we just really don't recognize it. Like, you know what I'm saying, we look at the scriptures and we look at some of us, let me say, we read it and then we be like, I never do that. I would, if y'all was doing that, you know, like you read the story of the Exodus and you be like, if y'all was in the tabernacle and he was providing us a cloud by day and fire by night, I would have never, but then it'd be the same situations in our everyday life that literally mirrors that exact situation, and we don't never like take account to it. We just be like,
yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's like that flesh just kicks in. So it's so funny how like when we have these conversations and we talk about, you know, these stories and we break it down, and you know, we see ourselves like so much, like just every day. Like it ain't even, oh, this one time, like no, these are everyday like things that we go through and that we do, you know what I'm saying? So that's why like that is just brings even more importance of just being practical with the word of Yah, because there is nothing new under the sun. There is nothing that we encounter daily or that we will ever encounter that, you know what I'm saying, ain't already happened.
Yeah.
To one of our ancestors, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not that where the answer is not given by Yah already. Like he's given us literally all the answers, and we just have to like really be practical, like, you know, with the word. You know, we got to put it into practice, because practice makes perfect. And this literally, and I think this goes more into 17. Me and Samaria were talking about like that, just these chapters kind of go hand in hand about like, you know, being perfect, you know what I'm saying, like that it's obtainable, you know what I'm saying, like if you continue to walk with Yah and you hear and obey, and you abide by his word, you know, his commands, the commands that he give you, then perfection, it literally is obtainable. It's nothing, but it's not what we think, you know, it is, as far as the English understanding of perfection, you know what I'm saying, like but it'll be more in 17 that we talk about that part. But yeah, that just made me think about like, dang, we literally be like encountering these things every day and we don't really be taking account to it. I know I don't. I'm speaking for myself. Sometimes like I be like thinking like I can't even say what I wouldn't have did, because I don't know.
Girl, I was literally reading this today, like going over the notes one more time. And in my own notes, look at me being convicted by my own notes in Revelation. I was like, what did I write? I was like, I said, nowhere in this entire series of choices does anyone seek Yah in prayer or simply ask for encouragement and direction. Everyone is literally just like, basically, also that we have the tendency to talk about Yah, but not actually go to him. And in the midst of me typing out, I was like, oh, am I doing that right now? I like literally, I know I asked y'all to pray, you know, to pray for me and pray with me on like what I'm supposed to do next. Like my contract just ended this today with the family I've been working for. So now I'm like, quote unquote, unemployed. Like I don't have another client prospect lined up for work. And like I just been talking about it and just been like, you know, well, like, Yah will make a way, but I haven't actually gone to Yah about it. I'll be like, yeah, Yah's gonna make a way, and he's done it before, so I know he'll do it again. But I haven't actually asked him or gone to him in prayer. And I think sometimes when we think we say stuff, like when we just talk about Yah in conversation, which is beautiful and great, but like, let's not forget to actually formally go to him.
Yeah.
And that was like, for me, that was like a conviction and reminder that like, hey, you writing this down right now, but what did you ask me about your next move? Or have you just been speculating, because I did it for you before and I am going to provide for you, but like, you haven't asked or come to me or prayed about, your next move or what you should be doing right now, And so like, it got me. I was like, ooh, let me write this down, and it pricked my heart. So that's why I was like, I want to pray about this today, because I've been talking about my next move and like I don't know what Yah wants me to do next, but I haven't actually asked Yah, okay, Yah, well, what do you want me to do next? Because I don't know. Like, I haven't done that in prayer. So yeah. But I think we probably gonna close it off here at 16, because like we talked about a lot. Like 16 isn't long, but it's very packed, because like we actually are walking through the text. We're actually breaking it down and talking about these deep things that we are witnessing and that we've experienced, and how we can see Yah's character in this entire chapter 16. And so it was so meaty and so good. I don't want us to try to like rush through 17 because it's getting late.
Right.
Because 17 is also very meaty.
It's packed. It is packed.
Okay. I'm excited about the thing of the circumcision of the covenant, baby. Okay.
Yes.
To the covenant. Okay. Like the first thing that we saw, that was just the promise of land. That wasn't a covenant between a generation. We about to get into the covenant. So we want to save this for next Friday when we have time to actually really get into it. So y'all read it, y'all pick it apart, y'all highlight whatever notes and whatever verses y'all want to go over, so we can really, really like fellowship and like sharpen each other as we break down Yah's heart for abiding by his covenant.
Hallelujah.
So yeah, with that, I love y'all. We're gonna pray out, and I'm about to stop the recording now, and then we can like pray.